The new feature is templates, and the rationale behind them is to make it much easier for first-time users to get started with Flow, as well as all of us to use Flow more quickly and efficiently. When just a moment ago, I created a flow and I hit create new, and it created a new flow in the background. And the first thing it does is pops up and say, would you like to select a template? You can always close it. You can upload your data first, see what kinds of things you would like to create very visually. And they're organized into a variety of groups based on kind of chart type. Some of those groups are actually quite sophisticated. They can show things like spark lines over a map, and templates are a great way for us to show how many different kinds of things Flow can do, many kinds of charts, and get you into those more sophisticated charts more quickly. Since this feature just went live yesterday, right now there's about 20 templates. That number should be closer to 30 in the next day or two. We expect the number to grow. In fact, even having opportunities for users to contribute templates as we move forward. So the simple view is, let's start with a 3D time chart. And it will create the time chart, put it in the background, and show you the data that was used to generate it. Especially for new users, it's nice to see the structure of the data, and they can even download the data as a CSV file so that they can imitate the basic structure of it. You can continue without re-upload and go ahead and just use the flow as it is, but we're going to launch straight into upload mode, and I'm going to drop in a new CSV file, and this CSV file is stock data. It's a fictitious portfolio from last year. So you can see it automatically replaced the columns from the original template and put it in the columns from the new data set I just uploaded. And it actually did a pretty good job. These are various stocks. You can see Tesla going through the roof last year. And in the front here is the returns on the total portfolio. And this happens to be a stock portfolio set of data where it's normalized. So in January of 2020, it went ahead and all those are the 0 points. You can just see this change in stocks over the year across a variety of indexes. This is really the cool innovation of this release, which is this remap template dialog. You can see what data was used by the template and example data. You can see what columns were applied after we did our little bit of magic, and you can change them right off the bat. For example, maybe I do want the vertical axis to be the portfolio allocation instead of the percentage change. So you can see when I swap that out, it actually is swapping that column into a variety of different places where this column is used in the app. And you also have some example data. Let's go ahead and we'll just close that and see what it's done there for a moment. Remember, you can always click present flow to go full screen to see it in full view. Let's pop back to edit mode though. So in this view, we have this new dialog. I showed you the upload dialog. Have a similar dialog here, which is the columns used. And it's actually the exact same dialog, just missing the first two columns. And here you can see where these things were used. And I think of this as a mini map. In a way, it's show me where the data in my data set is being applied throughout the system. And a mini map wouldn't be that cool unless you could actually use it to navigate. So when I click on any of these parameters, I can see, oh, yeah, the date is being used on the width axis or the height axis. See it flash over here. And that's nice because it helps get you from this overview into the heart of the app. It even does some pretty sophisticated things, like this labels one filter. First glance, you might kind of wonder what that is. But the labels, see the labels here, and we actually have a filter, which is saying, show this label these little text labels here, when the value of this column, the change, is the maximum for the index. I'm just going to make this a little bit more clear. You can see that we're only showing the label when a particular index is at its highest point. You can see Amazon at the end of the year. You can see that the index for Tesla pops up way there at the start. Because of the remapping, it knew to not only alter the height axis, but also to alter the filter that was used in order to figure out where to put the labels. And it's just there's so many things you can do in Flow and working with a swarm to be able to get at it directly here and quickly, we think is going to be an important ease of use improvement. So that is the core of the feature. A few other little changes for people who have seen Flow quite a bit. There used to be new swarm and new creation methods here. We've taken all those and dropped them under a new object button. It helps clean up the environment, the user interface quite a bit. We have also changed the way you can navigate to the components. So if you're working in a swarm, which we are here, you can see what are the parts and pieces of that swarm that we are adding to the swarm. So for our new folks, a swarm is basically how do you put a bunch of dots in space? And we came up with a new name for it because we could define it more precisely. It basically is a 3D scatter plot, but it's actually the functions that tell you how to put those dots in space. And then you can do things like add labels to them or add an area chart below those dots that drop down to the or here in this case. So those components have a quick to create new ones and to navigate quickly to them. And you can always get back to the swarm by the go to swarm button and work through all of that. I am going to pause there and take any comments or questions, and I can show you some more templates or however you would like to continue the conversation.
Hey, Jason, can you go back to the first screen of choosing data? Sorry. So when you first pick a template, there's
yes.
There's a place to replace data. I think there's column on there, the label on there. I'm just nitpicking. I think that could be made more clear.
So here's the data set. If I drop in,
choose a data set.
Yep, I'm going to drop in a pretty random data set on top. It was a life expectancy data set, and now it's going to be 10,000 cities data set. And here is the dialogue that I think you were asking for.
Yeah, so the first column, it says sample data from template. Wouldn't that be like column from sample data set or something like that?
I think you're right. I think that would be a better description of it.
Okay, thank you.
And these things matter. Every label, every button, we kind of agonize over them, and so that's great.
Yeah, I just find it, it's more like, because there you have a column from data set, right? And so this actually is basically a parallel concept. It's just a column, from the sample data set.
Exactly right.
Thanks.
So you can see how it remapped here. Each of the regions. So let me describe the logic here just a little bit, because it's kind of interesting. So the way we decide which columns to apply isn't a complicated AI system. It basically just says, first column in the data has numeric values. Go ahead and apply it to the first column that has numeric values. So that's why we got longitude and latitude as the first two, because these are metric values. Here, it said, okay, we know country is a categorical column. So take a look at all of the columns in the data set and organize them based on the fewest number of unique values. So continent only had 5 unique values. And so we decided that's the most likely category to pick. And then region has about 10 columns, 10 unique values. Go ahead and select it, and you can see what those are right away. And so we picked the second one there for the column with the second fewest number of unique values. So that gives you a sense of how we pick the columns automatically. It's not perfect. And in this case, right, we're looking at something that looks kind of strange. In fact, I would probably go over here and, well, first of all, here, let's do this right. I can say, oh, maybe I want to change the width axis. I can pick it here and, oh, it tells me where I should change it, and change the height axis as well. And now you at least have shapes that look kind of like the world. Let's go ahead and maybe we'll just, let's connect the cities based on country. And now you get something that looks a little bit more world-like, but that gives you a sense of how this works. More questions, ideas, comments?
Well, Jason, I haven't seen a demo yet, but it's super intriguing to me. Big fan of infographics. So let me know where to go to find, or if you're going to do sort of an overview here while we're together tonight. But I'm curious about what the create story button is up there. I'm sure I have a lot more questions, but I don't want to interrupt your flow right now on the new product.
Sure. Why don't we try to get that in within about 5 minutes, and I'll just go back and give an overview.
That'd be great.
Super. You saw the earlier versions of this. Did we get anything right, or did we get some things wrong?
So far,
Okay.
so good, but I think using it more, kind of see where it's at. And I'm always like one of these people, like I'll take a data set, try to use a template and see if, like, push it in and see if it works, kind of find out what works, what sets of data works better with what templates. That's just me.
Of course. And
Yeah.
it is possible to upload data sets that don't have enough parameters to appropriately swap in. So for example, I think the RIA data set I've swapped in here, because it has a column, which is a date column. If I try to re-upload data that does not have any date column at all, so let's try to do a 10,000 cities, it puts up a message saying, hey, the new data set doesn't have enough columns of type date. So it does, at this point, it prevents you from from uploading a data set that just won't work with this particular swarm. We could probably have a button that says, hey, I know, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. And you get what you get, but we are trying to do some things to help keep you from getting yourself in trouble. To finish up this conversation, let me just describe some of the limitations as of today. So right now, what happens is to apply a new template, you will always create a new swarm. And in the optimal flows, we'll take a single set and use that swarm from step to step to step, alter the perspective on it as you go. So right now, in order to get the first release out, we simplified our implementation, which means that every time you use a template, you're creating a new swarm. We will fix that or improve it over time so that you'll be able to take a single data set and keep applying new templates to it, so we can go from step to step and get the nice animations that are such a cool part of Flow. That's the big limitation at this point that will be changing. The other thing, as I mentioned, is we'll have a bunch of new visualization, new template types